Hi, I'm Rigger. This is Your Right, and today, welcome to RWBY Runs, my secret little project I've been thinking about for a long time. Before we start though, be sure to like the video if you like it, share the video if you guys would like it, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe if you want to see more. It was fast, but I wasn't trying to, beat my record. But as I mentioned, we're at the start of my special little project. This is an idea I had before I launched this channel, but it takes up a lot of time. Welcome to RWBY Runs. What is a RWBY Run? Just like a game where you have a run through under certain conditions, like a pacifist run or a speed run or any kind of run. This is that, but for RWBY. RWBY Runs are my idea for running through the plot of RWBY under what-if scenarios. I guess you could think of them as AUs, but really they're more what-ifs. The idea of what-if tales are pretty common these days, but I thought, hey, let's apply it to RWBY, because why not? It's a fun little writing challenge, and we get to play with the story we all know and love. So, yeah, let's do that. To start with, we're going to dive into a simple idea, but obviously one of the bigger, more dramatic ideas. And that is, what if Jaune died instead of Pyrrha? Pyrrha's death is one of the biggest moments in the series. It changed everything. Pyrrha is incredibly good at what she does, and Jaune isn't. One of the reasons Pyrrha died is she's pretty OP once things get serious. But our goal is to see the story out. So, we'll be fair, and we'll try and keep the story going. Before you jump on me and saying that this is missing the point of Jaune's journey, you're right. This is what should have happened. This is, let's see what would happen for fun, okay? But I want to make it clear you're not getting a whole lot of story in this video. This is my introduction to this whole series as well. So, I'm going to give you the rules and what we're doing, a little bit of the setup, and then the next video is going to dive into the plot completely. This is the video. This is the one in I don't care if it's 10 years from now, if someone complains about something in the comments, you point them back to this video where I explain the rules so we can get this all out of the way, so that there's not a million complaints on every video, okay? Here's the rules. Deal with it, okay? That's just me being real. The fact is, I'm one person making this. I know the RWBY show inside and out, and I still make mistakes every single video. If I forget something, deal with it. If I change something, deal with it. If development means things change, then deal with it. If we're doing a story that shifts the focus away from the team, then don't complain at me that RWBY is no longer the main character in this version. That's the point. This isn't canon, this doesn't matter. This is for fun. I'm going to do my best to logic out the events, whilst also doing what I can to make it a story and make it interesting. Sometimes tweaks will be needed to keep things moving. Perfect example. What if the what-if story was, what if RWBY wasn't at the dust shop that day when Roman tried to rob it? You'd say, well then the story doesn't happen and Salem wins. Okay, probably true. But if you hand that idea to me, I'll try my best to try and make that a story. But I'll need to change certain things so that we have a story. I'll do my best to stick to canon when I can, but if I deviate, it's because of its necessity. It's because I want to keep it entertaining for you. Also, I need to add, this suffers from the show being current. I can't do this and say, logically after season 3 in this scenario, they would now head to Vacuo, so let's go there. Because we haven't been there. I can't accurately portray what's happening there, I can't talk about characters we haven't even met yet. And don't bring up to me, well, it's in some of the books. I'm not putting in any, and I mean anything from the books. Most people haven't read them. They're to know this is about the show. It'd be like saying I'm doing a Pokemon what-if thing. Well, what about including this detail from the manga? Nobody knows the manga except you, and I'm not doing that, okay? I'm going to try and keep this accessible to as many people as possible. And in fact, I can keep it that way because despite how much I love RWBY, I haven't read the books and I have no plan to read the books for now. There's a big insider scoop on me. I want to experience the show without that kind of background. Show me the show. It also means that stuff taking place over in Vacuo, if it's confusing to the audience, I'll know as someone who, talks about RWBY because I won't have that background influence. I won't have that background knowledge from the book, so it'll tell me how well the show presents it. This is just show canon, and that's all. So there's a chance I also redo these. If RWBY is finished or progresses to a point where there's a logical thing that would have happened differently in one of these stories, I can go back and redo it if I want to. It's my show. So the knowledge of the whole picture by the end of the show will probably change this, but for now we can only work with what we have. That also means I'm not going to start crafting fanfictions for Volume 9 just because we hit the end of Volume 8. These stories are going to end at the end of Volume 8 until we get to Volume 9 and I can keep adding to them. So yes, there is not going to be a satisfactory conclusion to any of these, but I can only work with what I have. I'm sorry. Also, I have to say this because it's RWBY. Screw ships, okay? I know that sounds really harsh, but I'm just going to put it out there. Again, it's a deal with it. And this also applies somewhat to canon ships depending how things go. If logically something else makes sense because the entire scenario has changed, then that's what happens. I don't care if it's Bumblebee, Rose Garden, Black Sun, whatever, I don't care. I don't care about ships, and I am going to make the story a story, so if I have to change something, then I will. But also, it's not the focus of these things, unless there's like a what-if ship thing, but I'm cautious to do that because of this community. So that's just how it goes, okay? Now, that's not me being rude and saying I'm disregarding, like, you know, people's sexuality and changing them. No, like, you know, if you want to say Blake is clearly bi and she's interested in both, you know, Yang and Sun, and in our story Yang gets killed, I'm not going to not have her go to Sun because, no, you want Bumblebee to stay canon. Like, that's just not how these things work. We need a story, okay? So, I'm not disregarding what characters feel, I'm not, you know, changing representation, I'm just working with a story. So, just so we're clear. But me talking about Yang dying means that we come to the next point. Things happen. Stuff happens. If the story logically results that RWBY dies, then RWBY dies. Don't whine to me that this doesn't make sense, that's not how the show would go, she's the main character. It's a what if. Rules are suspended, and circumstances are she dies. I'll try my best to stay canon, to write out the plot and make it a show, but I will deliver to you a story, and if things happen that way, then that's how they happen. The real show is still always there, I'm not changing anything. But that being said, we should dive into the actual subject for this. So I'm going to be clear, this is just the setup. This is going to be basically just retelling the last episode of Volume 3. That's what this thing is. This is our setup leading into the rest of it, and next time we will pick up at the beginning of Volume 4. So we're all clear. And I'm not going to cover, like, RWBY's little short where she just, you know, kills things in the village and the people appear on the phones and say lines. It's not relevant. So yeah, we won't also be getting to Volume 8, like, next episode. I'm going to play it by ear for how long these are. I'm going to kind of keep the videos to manageable sizes for me. So there might be multiple episodes covered in one, depending how they go. It might be skipping a whole volume if it's not needed. We'll just play it what makes sense. And also, that's another thing. This video will be the last episode of Volume 3. Basically just the end of that, just to set up how things have changed. But I'm not going to cover every single episode of the show as we go. It's not going to be like, and this is what happens in Volume 4, Chapter 3, and Volume 4, Chapter 5. If we skip over things because things are the same or it doesn't matter, then we're doing that because it's just to keep the story moving. But we'll get to that ending. How is our ending different? So I'm going to quickly establish how I entered into this, what the idea was, because obviously John could die at any point, so why have I done the thing I'm about to do? Well, I think it's important to establish what we want out of the story. We want Pyrrha to sort of be on the path John was on, meaning we want that relationship. Basically, I'm saying we wanted the kiss. We need the kiss in there. So, while I was tempted to have Jean killed by the arrow in the vault, that was my first version, where Cinder just shot him, because it had that cold, like, you know, not noble death, you know, just being taken out like nothing. Or immediately after when he charged at Cinder and she just knocked him back, again, he could have died there. But I think doing that would rob us of a lot of emotion we can use in the story. But the other thing is, if we are going to the kiss, it means that it's annoying Jean has to get to the top of the tower. Look, it's a stupid design, and there's no emergency stairs we can see. I really want there to be emergency stairs or a service ladder in the elevator shaft, but there isn't. But there are other elevators there, you can see them, they exist, so we'll have to use one of those. So I tried to make it dramatic, but we'll see how we go. Yeah, this place makes no sense. Makes you wonder how Crow got RWBY down after he found her. Like, he flew up there as a crow, but everything's screwed up, so how did he get her back down without stairs that you can see? Anyway, doesn't really matter. We are moving forward. So, I'm gonna start right at the important bit. Right in the vault. Pyrrha helps Jean to leave, and Cinder and Ozpin face off. Escaping the building, they spill out to the entrance, but moments later, Cinder flies up through the elevator shaft, through the elevator itself, and continues up. This leads our heroes to the crushing realization that Ozpin failed, and is probably dead. It is here where Pyrrha decides that they don't have time to waste. The tower must survive, and she's the only one capable of holding a candle to Cinder, or so she thinks. Jean protests, and with a heavy heart, Pyrrha kisses him. A kiss she desperately wanted, but is also a sly trick. She knows it will likely be her last moments with Jean, and then shoves him in a locker. She hates herself for doing it, but it's for the best. She locks eyes with him through the gap one last time, programs the locker to fly into the city, and it takes off. She steels herself for just a second, turns and heads into the tower. She walks straight into that broken elevator and summons her powers. Using her semblance, she then fires the elevator straight up the shaft. The elevator opens at the top, Pyrrha flies out, and they start fighting. High in the sky, we cut back to Jaune. He is in panic in the little locker. It's just taken off. He only has a few seconds to think about what he's going to do before he's too far away to help. In the cramped space, he wedges his hip against the wall, so his sheath is flat against it, and he reaches down and hits the button on it, making it pop open into a shield. One edge of the shield hits the back wall, the other edge of the shield hits the door. There's a groaning metal protest, and then the lock cracks open. Looking down, he's just cresting the first line of buildings before the square. He does not have a landing strategy, and he is gaining height and speed. It is now or never. He doesn't even take the breath, he just jumps, taking a hefty fall, and his aura crackles as he hits the roof. He can't stop though. He gets up and starts sprinting for the rooftop door. He throws open the door and starts sprinting down the winding staircase inside, trying to get back as quick as he can. The fight back in the tower continues as before. On ground level, Jaune calls Weiss and tells her that Pyrrha is at the top of the tower and does not stand a chance. He says that he's on his way to help her, but she needs all the help she can get, and you guys, please save her. Weiss and RWBY are actually in front of Jaune when he arrives back in that open square, and they're engaging Grimm. Jaune calls out, and he and RWBY lock eyes from across the square. RWBY and Weiss have drawn away the Grimm into their fight, and there's a clear path to the tower. Weiss looks over and quickly interjects, yelling, "We can handle them! Go!" Jaune grits his teeth, wanting to help his friends, but knowing he needs to get to Pyrrha. He runs through the landing, runs over to the bank of elevators, and mashes the button. It is the longest wait of his life. As it arrives, he basically pushes his way through the door before it's even open all the way, and immediately turns, hammering the button for it to go to the top floor. There is an odd moment of peace in the elevator as the doors close and it starts to rise. He starts psyching himself up. Jaune doesn't know what he can do, but just that he has to do something. He furrows his brows in determination. He takes a few breaths, not knowing what he's going to see when those doors open. Then everything goes haywire as the dragon crashes into the tower, slicing off the top, wreaking havoc and destroying the tower's signal. In the elevator, Jaune gets rocked, being thrown against the wall hard as his aura crackles again. The elevator drops for a frightening moment, but then the emergency brakes kick in. Getting his bearings, Jaune looks around. He's just in a small box. Knowing he's not at the top and being stuck is pointless, he looks around for an escape. Opening the doors wouldn't get him anything, and he probably is between floors, so he looks up and spots the service hatch. Using the point of his sword, he smashes out the hatch to create an opening. He stows his weapons and pulls himself up onto the roof of the elevator. Looking up is quite an intimidating sight as he sees the buckled elevator door at the top of the shaft. Through the gap in that door, the shaft is occasionally illuminated by flashes of yellow light. Horrifying glows that indicate the fight is still raging, but that means Pyrrha is still going. He's not actually that far away, it's just the last little bit to get to that door. Jaune steels himself again, and with a groan, he grabs onto the elevator cables and starts climbing. Pyrrha is on the back foot. Her weapon is broken, her aura is gone after her last-ditch attempt to bury Cinder under everything metal she could find did not pay off. She throws her shield in desperation one last time, and the arrow splits around it, embedding itself deep in her ankle. She goes down. Cinder walks over slowly, saying it's a shame she was promised a power she was never truly meant to have. But do not worry, she will use it in ways that Pyrrha could never imagine. Jaune's fingers crest over the edge of the elevator door opening. He pulls himself up to his chest as he watches Cinder take her place in front of Pyrrha. Pyrrha looks up at her with a genuine question. Do you believe in destiny? RWBY's footsteps are thudding up the tower outside. Jaune scrambles to get his knee up out of the shaft. Yes. She draws back the bow. Pyrrha doesn't break eye contact, and the arrow is released. Pyrrha! Jaune leaps in front, and the arrow bounces off his shield at the last moment. RWBY leaps up into the air, cresting the edge. Jaune, no! Screams Pyrrha as Jaune takes a big, wide swing at Cinder. It's not very artful, it is just a powerful, wide swing for the neck. Cinder steps forward, catching Jaune's hand as if it were nothing, and drives a knee straight into his gut, cracking away the last bit of aura he had left. Still controlling his wrist in one smooth motion, she spins him around to face Pyrrha, his arm twisting into a chicken wing behind his back, forcing him to drop the sword. In a fluid motion, Cinder drops her bow and catches that sword, and there is a sickening shh sound, and everything goes quiet. Pyrrha's eyes are wide, and it pulls back to show the point of Jaune's sword erupting from his chest through his armor. Everything but the hilt is buried up into the small of his back, diagonally up through his body. Everyone is in disbelief. Jaune is wide-eyed in panic, not processing what he's seeing as the point comes straight out of his chest, and in front of him he sees the helpless Pyrrha with fear in her eyes. The pair's eyes lock. Jaune is in wide-eyed terror, and Pyrrha is in shocked disbelief. They hold eye contact, and slowly, Cinder's offhand lets go of the sword handle and comes up around Jaune's throat. At that, Jaune flashes orange as he superheats completely, and he disintegrates into ashes. The sword that was through his chest clatters to the ground. Where once Jaune's face was, now Pyrrha only sees Cinder's again, cruelly smirking. "Jaune!" The shout rings out from beside the both of them. They both turn in surprise as everything goes white. The whiteout is just as before, except it is not totally silent. There is a soft, mournful sobbing, and a small scream, and then the voice of Crow, trying to comfort. After the whiteout, things are as before. RWBY wakes up in bed. She asks about Pyrrha, and when she does, Crow says that she'll be fine. He actually slightly chuckles and says that when he found RWBY, she almost stabbed him. She was in no condition to fight and didn't know what was going on. She was just in shock. She was laying over RWBY's body to protect her and swinging wildly with Jaune's sword, just swinging at anything that moved. And then RWBY asks about Jaune, and Crow confirms he's gone, and RWBY cries. Then they have their talk about Silver Eyes. Crow drops his big hint on where to go next, and that's it. Blake has run away. Yang's spirit is still broken in her room. RWBY decides to leave, but exiting the house, the first face we see is actually Nora. And then, after they hug, there's Ren, and they share a soft smile of friendship. Then, after RWBY asks if they're all ready to go, the camera turns and there is a third person. It is a cloaked figure beside them. The hood of the cloak nods and turns towards them, showing that it is indeed Pyrrha, or at least they're holding Pyrrha's spear like a walking staff. It seems to have been reforged, though there are some noticeable lines where the breaks occurred. And yeah, that confirms who it is, as wisps of fiery red hair are spilling out of the edge of the front of the cloak's hood. As they move, the cloak splits, and you can see her legs and her armor. She still appears to be the same. She doesn't seem to have gone through any radical changes. If anything, the cape and hood just seem more fitting for the snow they're about to walk through, although it doesn't seem to bother Nora at all. As they walk off, it's clear that Pyrrha isn't using her spear as an actual walking staff. She seems to be walking fine. Perhaps it just didn't fit comfortably under the cloak on her back where she usually keeps it, who knows. Lastly, on the airship, we see Weiss and Jacques. And Weiss is acting slightly differently. Rather than being just annoyed at her father, she's instead looking down to her hands, a soft blue glow confirming it's most likely a scroll, and she snaps it shut. She then takes a moment to pinch at her eyes, wiping away some small tears, and then proceeds to just look back out the window, defeated. And, as always, we finish with Crow, contemplating Oss's cane, seeing the group walking in the distance, jumping from the cliff, turning into a crow, and following the team. Now that's it. It's not a whole lot of story, but that's our big, detailed setup. There will be more coming. Take this as a statement of intent, I will be doing this. However, there will not be a set schedule for this. I'm not going to say I can do it weekly, because that might be impossible. It's just when they come to me and when they get time to be made. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. But it will continue. Honestly, this episode is as much for me as it is for you to make myself start this. And, just like any season finale, we're left with questions. What do you think has changed? What do you think will happen? What will be the biggest hurdles now Jaune is gone? Where do we go from here? Let me know your thoughts. Again, don't expect everything to be this detailed moving forward. I'll cover the important bits. If we have important scenes, then we'll obviously do them in detail. That's just how it's going to go so we can actually get through these plots, and it's not going to take years. So, yeah. But, that being said, we bring this first chapter to a close. It is, as it was then, the end of the beginning. We are on the same journey, but it's not quite the same. I will see you next time. Until then, my name is Rigger. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope I did alright.